My elder sister was the emperor's first empress. She married him when he was just an unknown prince. 3 years after he ascended the throne, my sister's health gave out. She left behind a 3-year-old nephew and passed away. And I was the one the ministers carefully chose for the emperor to be his new empress. As one of only 2 daughters in the Minister of War's residence, I was not born to the main wife. But father and the legal mother doted on me deeply. My birth mother was not favored. But she had the main wife's full trust. These years, the legal mother had no interest in managing the household, so all the residence's affairs were left to her. Though I was a concubine's daughter, I lived no worse than a legitimate one. Even the legal mother sometimes sighed, "Your father treats you better than he treated your sister." Parents loving their children is only natural. I never paid it much mind, but my birth mother would always smile gently. "It is Nyenyen's blessing to have such kind parents as you and master." My birth mother spoke flawlessly. I never learned that skill. I was raised by the legal mother since I was little. She spoiled me, never once scolding me. I never had to tread carefully, and life was smooth. The only misfortune came when I was 8. My elder sister died suddenly. The stable Wang family began to teeter. Though I stayed in the inner quarters, I caught hints of it from father's words. Half a year later, an imperial edict arrived. I was to be the new empress. Father flew into a rage, but on the day we received the edict, he could only fall silent and accept it. The legal mother was the last to know. That night, she stormed into my chamber, ranting, "Those murderous royals, they used up Lanii. And now they want to ruin Nyenyen. I'll fight them." "Madam, careful with your words." Father quickly covered her mouth and dragged her to the study. I huddled in my birth mother's arms and whispered, "Is step-empress just the crown prince's stepmother?" Tears streamed down her face. She held me tight. "I worked my whole life to secure your future, and it all meant nothing. My poor child, you have to go to that man-eating palace all alone." I reached up to wipe her tears. "Mother, don't cry." Ever since I turned 3, my birth mother had forbidden me from calling her mother. Every time I did, her face would turn cold. Eventually, I stopped, but now, I thought she wanted me to say it. My birth mother was always busy running the inner residence, pushing my useless uncles to study. I always felt her life was full of things, but very little warmth for me, so we were not close. Most of the time, I thought of the legal mother as my real mother. Only later did I learn, everything she did was for me. By being cold to me, she let the legal mother love me without jealousy. On the day I entered the palace, my birth mother was not supposed to see me off. But the legal mother dragged her along. When I turned back, I saw her standing behind the gate, staring at me without blinking, as if trying to burn me into her eyes. The legal mother had said plainly, "Who knows when we'll see her again? Why care about silly rules? Our family was good. The only bad thing was that we were subjects, chess pieces." I'd eavesdropped on the Prime Minister talking to father. He said, "Your daughter is young, but she is the crown prince's aunt. As long as she sits on that throne, the prince will face fewer threats." Father understood. He was just powerless. On one side, the crown prince, on the other, his daughter. We weren't even on the same scale. I think I understood. The empress's throne was like a latrine. I just had to sit there. Whether I did anything or not didn't matter. On our wedding day, the emperor stared at me in shock. "What? Do they think I'm some kind of beast?" He only knew he was marrying a Wang daughter. He had no idea she was this young. His usual calm expression cracked. I didn't care. When my sister was alive, the legal mother sometimes brought me to the palace. Back then, I called him Emperor brother-in-law. The legal mother had fallen to her knees in terror, but he hadn't gotten angry. He'd patted my head and said I was a good girl. After that, whenever I saw him, I'd call him sweetly, and he'd always give me gifts. Now I held a walnut cake, missing a tooth, and grinned at him. "Emperor brother-in-law, do you have more pastries?" The emperor looked at me helplessly, then laughed. He leaned over and pinched my cheek, a little thing who only thinks about eating. That night, the imperial kitchen sent all kinds of snacks and a full dinner. I ate too much and started whimpering and crying. He sat by the bed and rubbed my stomach all night. Before I fell asleep, I clutched his bright yellow robe and thought, brother-in-law isn't as scary as father said. He feels like a little daddy. The next morning, when I woke up, brother-in-law was already gone. The maid said he'd gone to court. Before leaving, he'd ordered that the consorts and noble ladies wait until he returned to audience me. But the sun was high, and he still hadn't come back. And those women were making a huge racket outside Chunghua Palace. The eunuchs and maids were sweating nervously. Every one of those women was someone they couldn't afford to offend. Suddenly, a maid knelt before me. "Your Majesty, I am Yu Miao, head maid of the late Empress's palace. I've been assigned to oversee Chunghua Hall. Every consort comes from a powerful family. For the Crown Prince's sake, please let them in. You only need to sit upright. They won't trouble you. Since you're young." I knew her. My sister had said many times she was clever and sharp. I looked at the sun, then at the palace staff kneeling all over the floor, and said, "All right." The palace consorts arrived first. Dressed lavishly and nobly, they looked at me with obvious curiosity and displeasure. Naturally, they resented it. They'd fought over the Empress's position for so long, only to lose to a little girl like me. They bowed lazily, then sat down without waiting for me to excuse them. I knew it was my turn to speak. The nurses stared at me nervously, afraid I'd say something ridiculous. I copied how the legal mother used to act, forcing a polite smile. "Sorry to keep you ladies waiting. The weather was nice, and I slept in. You must have worked hard. I am Empress, but I'm also the youngest here." Behind closed doors, "I'll call you all sisters." At those words, their surprise faded, and they smiled and said they didn't dare. I had the nurses hand out gifts one by one. A young empress was still empress. Even if they looked down on me, they didn't dare show it too clearly. With so many watching, one wrong word would set off a storm in the harem. The woman sitting below me smiled. "Her Majesty has only just entered the palace. If you feel homesick, you can always talk to us." She looked like a fairy, and her voice was soft. I immediately liked her. "Sister Jingui is so beautiful. You remind me of my elder sister." She smiled gently. "Your Majesty is too kind. I am nothing compared to the late Empress." I pointed to the seat beside me. "Sister, come sit next to me. Please introduce the others, so I don't make mistakes later." She rose calmly and introduced everyone briefly. There weren't many consorts, but all came from noble families, every one of them important. The tea on the table had long gone cold. The maids brought fresh cups. I reached for one, but the cup was scorching hot. I flinched, and the cup tipped over. Jingui quickly covered the cup, keeping it from spilling on me. That was when the emperor walked in. Hearing my cry, he rushed over and lifted me up. He checked my hand again and again, only relaxing when he saw I wasn't burned. The consorts bowed, but he didn't answer. He touched the tea on the table, then he sneered, "Jingui, this is how you manage the 6 palaces, a whole Chunghua Hall, and not even a servant can serve tea properly," serving scalding tea to the empress. Jingui knelt. "It is my fault, Your Majesty. If you cannot manage alone, then noble consorts Yan and Zhaoi Wn will assist you." Everyone bowed in agreement. I stared, stunned. So this was the emperor's wrath, terrifying. My hand was still in his. I hesitated, wondering if I should kneel too. He spoke again. "From now on, do not disturb the empress without good reason." His meaning was clear. He was sending them away. Jingui hid her own burned hand in her sleeve and forced a gentle smile. "Yes, Your Majesty, we take our leave." When they were gone, the emperor let go of my hand. "Little one, were you scared?" I said stiffly. "No." He pinched my cheek and laughed. "Don't pay attention to those mean aunts, just grow up happy." "But brother-in-law, the nurses say I'm empress. I can't act like this." "Nonsense. Just be yourself. A child should act like a child." But I was confused. Father said I had to grow up fast, so I could protect the crown prince, if I was still a child. How could I protect my little nephew? I asked him exactly that. The emperor laughed. "My child, I will protect him myself. Adults' business is not for children to worry about." Oh, all the harem scheming I'd been taught was useless. The emperor sent me to school instead. He even made up a fake identity for me. Princess Qinghe, the crown prince's cousin. By day, I studied with the crown prince in the palace school. By night, brother-in-law tested me. The crown prince was already memorizing the analects. I was still memorizing the 3-character classic. While I was still stuttering my way through, The crown prince had already finished reciting, and both he and his father were looking at me with disdain. Back at the Wang residence, no one had ever forced me to study. Father always said I just needed to know how to read. As for books, if I didn't like them, it was fine. Girls didn't need to take imperial exams. What was the point? The legal mother would always snort. Then why did you push Lanny so hard? Father would shrink back. She was the eldest daughter. It's not the same. She had to carry half the family's future. The legal mother didn't want me to study much. She always said that girls who read too much suffered. Books held 1,000 worlds. But women were trapped behind high walls, unable to go anywhere. Better never to know how big and bright the outside was that way. You wouldn't spend your life regretting it. The legal mother was well read, her talent no less than any man's, but she dared not show it, for she was a noble lady. Noble ladies didn't need brilliance, they only needed to be proper mistresses. Of course, I guessed all this from our chats. I didn't know if it was true. The legal mother didn't want me to understand, but brother-in-law was different. To him, there seemed to be no difference between boys and girls. When the crown prince studied, I studied. When the crown prince practiced martial arts, I practiced too, with him. The crown prince and I were almost the same. Every time they watched me study, they frowned, like I was the stupidest thing in the world. It made me so mad I studied in my dreams. My little nephew was 5 years younger than me. Was I really worse than him? Speaking of the crown prince, my heart felt cold. When my elder sister was alive, he'd clung to me, calling me auntie sweetly every time I came to the palace. Half a year later, he was much more polite, calling me Empress Mother coldly. I still liked it when he called me auntie. That little round face had sounded so sweet, not like this distant tone now. The crown prince and I went to school quietly. There was nothing in the harem that needed my attention. The consorts didn't come to me on their own. When we met in the palace, they only bowed from far away. I guessed brother-in-law must have said something. One day, the crown prince and I practiced archery. He was barely taller than his bow. I laughed and laughed. I must have laughed too hard, because he got frustrated. The general teaching us scratched his head. Your Highness, watch the princess practice today. Tomorrow I'll make a smaller bow for you. The bow was heavy. At first I struggled. But I was the second daughter of the Wangs, famous for being strong. I held on anyway. A marquis watching from afar narrowed his eyes and clicked his tongue. A pity she's a girl. He didn't know I also had excellent hearing. I answered right away. A pity what? Boys can do it. Girls can too. I drew and loosed bullseye. Everyone went quiet. They looked at me like I was some rare talent. The old marquis's half-lidded eyes popped wide open. He stared at me in disbelief. I grinned at him, my missing tooth making me lisp a little. Word somehow reached brother-in-law. That night, he studied me for a long time before saying, "Not bad, kid. You've got the makings of a female general. You're nothing like your sister." If he'd met my useless uncles, he'd know where my brute strength came from. I beamed. "Brother-in-law, I'll be a general and protect you someday." "Good, I'll wait." Brother-in-law didn't hold me back. He pushed me in both literature and martial arts. The little crown prince, stimulated by me, started running at dawn. Later, brother-in-law just picked him up and tossed him back to bed, yelling her. "Your father is still young. You don't need to work this hard. You're little, grow properly first." Other kids his age still cuddled in their mother's arms, but royal children already had to be strong. Maybe the crown prince wanted his mother's hug too, but his mother was gone. He had a stepmother now, but she was still the age that needed hugging. The crown prince remembered that not long after his mother died, the nurses said someone would take care of him. He'd refused at once. "I only want mother." He'd expected nothing from a stepmother. Then his aunt had walked in, bright and young. Wait, how could such a little aunt take care of him? She'd be lucky not to steal father from him. Before, father only had to comfort him. Now auntie cried even more than he did. Father spent most of his time comforting her. He might even have to comfort auntie too. But life didn't feel so lonely with her around. The nurses said auntie would have her own children someday. Whatever, he'd think about it later. 2 years passed in the palace. The day before my 10th birthday was brother-in-law's 30th birthday. When I wished him a happy 30th birthday, his face went dark. "Wang Lanyun, if you can't talk nicely, don't talk at all, huh?" Did I flatter the wrong way? A maid whispered, the emperor is still young. How could you say that? I nodded, understanding. Oh, 30 is the age to strive. Then I wish you 2 more princes next year. He told me to get out. Fine, he was getting old. Maybe it was his mood. 2 little princesses had been born in the harem over these 2 years. I'd visited when the eldest was born. She was tiny and thin, like a little monkey. I'd felt sick all day after seeing her. The nurse comforted me. All newborns look like that. I felt even worse. I didn't dare visit when the second princess was born. I saw her at the full-month feast, though round, white, chubby, like a sweet rice ball. The crown prince and I loved her. Whenever we were free, we went to Chohua Palace to see her. Noble Lady Wn was gentle and kind. She always gave us interesting snacks when we came. That day, I was punished to stand facing the wall for riding too fast. I arrived late. The crown prince was already eating when I got there. I snatched his teacup and drained it, then I collapsed into a chair. That old marquis is getting fiercer and fiercer. The crown prince glanced at me. Why do you keep provoking him? I snickered. Sometimes people were just that silly. Noble Lady Wn came over holding the little princess, smiling. Her Highness heard your voices and won't sleep anymore. She insisted on coming out. I reached to hold her. When a sharp pain hit my chest, I coughed up a mouthful of blood. I touched my mouth. Staring at the blood on my hand in disbelief, I whispered, poison. Noble Lady Wn rushed over with the baby, screaming, Empress, guards, call the imperial physician. Then I fainted, looking into the crown prince's terrified eyes. The empress being poisoned was a major event in any dynasty. Chaos broke out in Noble Lady Wan's palace at once. When Xiesheng arrived, Wang Lanyun was still lying in a pool of blood. The physicians knelt beside her, feeling her pulse, seeing her small body curled up. Xiesheng's heart felt squeezed. He couldn't understand how someone so lively that morning could be poisoned in a flash. He glanced at his eunuch, who understood at once and ordered the palace sealed. The physicians turned to bow. He stopped them. Thankfully, the head physician knew his panic. He knelt calmly. Your Majesty, the Empress was poisoned recently. It hasn't reached her organs. She can still be saved. The Empress must live. Do everything you can. The head physician wasted no time. He pricked her fingers to let out toxic blood, then fed her several pills. After half her incense stick, he checked her pulse and exhaled in relief. Xiesheng held the little empress, who just escaped death. His racing heart slowly calmed. As he passed the red wall, an old memory surfaced. Not long ago, he'd seen Minister Wang lingering outside the wall. When no one was looking, he'd stood on tiptoe, peering into the palace. Every jump of his thin, small body looked ridiculous. The honest minister slipped silver to little eunuchs every day, just to ask if his daughter was doing well inside. If anything had happened to her, he didn't know how he'd face his father-in-law, or the late empress. The crown prince was sobbing, tears streaming down his face. He was held by a maid, following closely. Father, will auntie die? No, Ling her, I promise you. But mother, that's how mother left. The late empress had died suddenly. The palace had officially said it was illness. Only Xiesheng knew she'd also been poisoned. He held the little empress tight and hurried toward Qianqing Palace. She won't die. I won't let her. When I woke up, sunlight was streaming through the window. I touched my chest, thinking, I almost didn't get to see such nice sunshine. I'd had a long dream, in it. My elder sister hit me with a feather duster, telling me to go home. Home? Could I still go home? Before I could think, she pushed me away. Then I woke up. Voices argued outside, familiar voices. Nian doesn't like delicate flowers. If you're that bored, build her a training ground instead. That was the legal mother. But how did she know I liked martial arts? I'd only learned it here in the palace. Master, stop fussing. Go to court. You haven't gone in 5 days. If Nian wakes up, we'll send a boy to tell you at once. It was mother's voice. I tried so hard not to feel homesick all these years, but hearing them, I couldn't help standing up to look. What if it really was them? I pushed the door open. The first person I saw was the legal mother. She squeezed her handkerchief tight, praying to the courtyard, muttering under her breath. She was praying for Bodhisattva to protect me. Mother, she heard me and opened her eyes in joy. Nyen Nyen, you're awake, the Bodhisattva has answered. My birth mother had her back to me. When she heard my voice, she turned stiffly. And tears spilled down her face at once. She dropped the account books in her hand and hurried to me. My good Nyen Nyen, you're finally awake. Father stayed dignified, standing to the side with his hands behind his back, smiling. I knew my Wang family's child would be blessed. They crowded around me, talking a lot, but held back, knowing I was weak. After a few words, they told me to rest. I lay down, and they left. Outside, I heard the legal mother tease father, Lord father-in-law. Your snot's on your beard, father huffed, flustered. Don't talk nonsense. I giggled, then buried myself under the covers and sobbed. It felt so good to have family. On the 10th day away from the palace, father told me noble Lady Wn had been thrown into the cold palace, and the second princess given to Jingui to raise. I was confused. How could it be noble Lady Wn who hurt me? Why would she do something so foolish? Father stroked his beard and looked at me with disdain. She's a scapegoat. Of course, only the emperor knows who the real killer is, right? We all knew she was innocent, but no one could save her. My heart ached. Noble Lady Wn was kind, her pastries were delicious, and she always smiled like nothing in life could trouble her, while all the other consorts avoided me. She was the one who held my hand when I fell, calling me a good girl. She doted on me and the crown prince the most. How could she have poisoned me? Nyen Nyen, you are empress, on this throne. The worst thing you can be is soft-hearted, I said. I understand, father. In my quiet moments, I wondered, who would dare murder the heir so openly? I had a guess, but I didn't know if it was right. I'd drunk the crown prince's tea and taken the hit for him. The little prince felt guilty. I saw him peeking through my door, wanting to come in but too shy. Xie Linghe, you're acting like a little girl. I leaned out the window and teased him. Only then did he slowly shuffle in. Auntie, are you better? Why aren't you calling me Empress Mother anymore? He scratched his head and grinned. I laughed too. Father said the emperor had gone to handle important business, and we two burdens were staying here for now. He'd come get us when he returned. I prayed silently. Let the emperor take his time. Without the emperor or the tutors to discipline us, Xie Linghe and I were like wild monkeys from Mount Amei. We jumped around all day. At first, father still called us Her Majesty and Your Highness politely. After we almost burned the ancestral hall down, he got so angry he fell ill. He kept muttering that I was a rebellious child. By the time we'd wrecked most of the plants in the manor, even the always gentle legal mother lost her temper and ordered us to kneel in the ancestral hall, staring at the legal mother chasing me with a feather duster. I was shocked. Mother, I am empress. I'd beat the crown prince too. Now both of you kneel properly. Our bond was truly gone. The emperor came back on Mid-Autumn Festival. I was about to climb over the wall to go out, lost my balance, and fell right into his arms. He lifted me slightly and sighed. Kid, you've gotten heavy. I wrapped my arms around his neck, surprised. Emperor brother-in-law, you're back just in time for mooncakes. He'd lost weight and looked tired, but his eyes were bright, like scattered starlight. Brother-in-law is so pretty, the prettiest person I've ever seen. That's because you've seen too few people. You're a frog at the bottom of a well. What's a frog at the bottom of a well? The emperor took my hand and led me through the back gate. A little kid trapped like you, that's what. I don't want to be trapped, brother-in-law. I'm going to be a great hero someday. Good, I'll wait. As soon as he finished speaking, he collapsed. Brother-in-law, father dared not let anyone know the emperor was injured. The man who'd been careless his whole life suddenly woke up. He cut himself with a knife and told everyone he'd fought with his wife and been accidentally stabbed. The emperor was badly hurt, with many wounds. Father locked the doctors in the courtyard for 5 full days. On the morning of the 6th day, the emperor finally woke up completely. Xie Linghe and I didn't dare misbehave those days. We squatted quietly outside like little quails. It was the first time I realized the big tree that sheltered me could also fall. I knelt by the bed, squeezed his pale hand, and said, Nyen Nyen will grow up fast. I'll protect you too. When I was 13, major events happened. Jingui's family, the Yu clan, was accused of murdering the heir and plotting rebellion. At that time, Xie Linghe and I were playing with the second princess in Jingui's palace. Jingui was sitting to the side knitting, telling the little princess to be careful. She loved children deeply, both the second princess and us. After what happened with noble Lady Wn, the emperor barely let us spend time with the consorts anymore. We didn't even have our own palaces. We studied in the morning, reviewed books in the Hall of Mental Cultivation at night, and slept in the side hall of Qianqing Palace. At our young age, we already kept the emperor's schedule, skipping 30 years of hardship, but Jingui was too enthusiastic. She'd hold the second princess and beg to let us play together. How could we refuse that chubby little ball? The emperor was displeased, but he turned a blind eye. When we brought the second princess back, he'd tease her, but once she was back in Jingui's arms, he turned cold, like a stepfather. The emperor disliked Jingui more and more these years, but I'd heard from the nurses, the emperor and Jingui had been childhood sweethearts. Once, to marry her, he'd knelt before the late emperor all night. Later, the late emperor married my elder sister to the emperor, and gave Jingui to the then crown prince as a side concubine. Their relationship should have ended, but with the shift of power, it was rekindled, after the emperor ascended the throne. The Yu family gave Jingui a new identity and sent her to the palace. Jingui was deeply favored for a while, but the year the first empress died, everything changed. It had all been a sign. Even then, with the fall of the Yu clan, Jingui's role in murdering the first empress was exposed. Jingui was locked in the cold palace. That gentle, beautiful woman waited for her fate in the quiet halls. When I secretly visited her, she was sitting in the moonlight drinking cold tea. Her messy hair couldn't hide her stunning face. I knew you'd come, little empress. Yes, I would. I couldn't understand. What could make a woman plot against her own family like this? Ever since I saw you secretly helping Huanwan, I knew you weren't like your sister. You're too kind. How can you sit on this throne? I didn't answer. I looked around. The place was remote, but clean. Someone must tend it daily. After looking around, I asked, "Did you have anything to do with my sister's death?" "I never meant to kill your sister. That cup of tea was for the emperor. She drank it knowing it was poisoned." She grew agitated, knocking over the teacup on the table. Wang Lanyi used even herself to bring down the Yu clan and destroy the deposed crown prince's faction. She hated the Yu clan. She hated that we sacrificed Yu Heng. I hate the Yu clan too. I was 5 months pregnant. To please the emperor, they forced an abortion potion down my throat. My baby would have been born in a few months. I hate the emperor. I hate him for using me. I hate the Yu clan for plotting against me. So I drugged his tea. I wanted him to reject me, but your sister took it instead. She played that trick perfectly. I was just a piece in her game. She gave me all the evidence and let me send them to their deaths. Ha 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 ha. I was confused. There were too many secrets I didn't know, and it all meant my sister's death was not simple at all. Looking at her growing madness, I changed the subject. "Then why did you try to murder the crown prince a few years ago?" She smiled. "Murder the crown prince? That wasn't me. The one you're looking for hasn't shown himself yet. Little empress, listen to me. Use Xiesheng's affection for you and leave this place. This harem is not clean." I thought it was the funniest thing I'd ever heard. "Leave? Can I leave?" I tilted my head and smiled. If I were no longer useful, the Wang family would be the first to kill me. She stared at me in surprise, then laughed. "This is getting interesting. Our little empress isn't as harmless as she looks." She still didn't understand. All these years, I'd studied alongside Xie Linghe. What he learned, the way of emperors, I learned too. I'd seen the schemes of the inner palace. How could I be a child who knew nothing? I knew everything. The emperor gave Jingui poisoned wine, but did not strip her of her title. It was her last dignity. Since the second princess had no one to raise her, the emperor gave her back to noble Lady Wn, who still lived in the cold palace. Apart from not being able to leave, life wasn't too bad. The crown prince personally took his little sister to the cold palace. Watching from afar, I saw the bond between siblings. I thought of my elder sister. She used to hold my hand on snowy nights and lead me to the carriage home. The last thing she said to me was patting my head and telling me to be good. I'm being good now. I wonder if she can see. It doesn't matter if she can't. From now on, I won't be good at all. When I was 13, I told the emperor I wanted to go to the border. He scolded me for being ridiculous. I didn't give up, I pestered him every day. The maids around me called me foolish. They kept begging me to focus on coming of age and bearing a son. I glanced at them, feeling only annoyance. It was time to clean out the spies around me. Jingui had fallen. The empress was young. The harem was sparse. Ministers begged the emperor to expand the harem to secure the imperial line. Compared to the late emperor, His Majesty had very few children, only 3 little ones. No wonder the ministers worried. This time, the emperor compromised. He gave the selection task to noble consort Xian. She was managing the 6 palaces now. The emperor wanted to promote her rank, but she refused. Her reason was interesting. The empress will soon come of age. Your Majesty loves and values her. This authority will return to her eventually. I am only managing for 2 years. Why bother promoting me? The emperor was stunned. He'd always treated the little empress like a child, forgetting they were husband and wife. Her first duty wasn't to be a hero, it was to rule the harem as a proper empress. He actually lost sleep over it. After a night of thinking, he ordered the old marquis to take her to the border. How could he trap the sunflower he'd raised so carefully in this man-eating palace? The little empress was gone. One day, she was cheerfully telling him he was the most important person to her. The next, as soon as she heard she could leave, she packed and left that same night. Xiesheng sneered. Kids' mouths are full of lies. Father was so angry he didn't go to court for 7 days, ranting, why doesn't he send the crown prince? It's easy because she's not his own child. Xiesheng sent the crown prince with gifts to calm him down, while he arranged to bring a legitimate daughter of the Langya Wang clan into the harem. Father had just relaxed when he heard this. He chased the crown prince right out. The Langya Wangs were the main branch of our clan. We shared the same ancestry. But the capital Wangs were a side branch, with lower status. Now the capital branch was doing better. We resented and rejected the main branch's control. Plainly, you're worse off than me, yet you dare order me around. Who do you think you are? The late emperor had wanted the Langya Wang daughter to marry the 6th prince. But the Wangs had thought themselves the top clan. They didn't want a bad bet, so they tricked their way into marrying a daughter of the side branch, my father's. Back then, the main branch had bet on the deposed crown prince, wanting their legitimate daughter to be crown princess. They spent half their fortune as dowry. The crown prince agreed, but delayed, taking concubines first. The Wangs were furious, but helpless. When the deposed prince fell and the 6th prince ascended, my sister became empress. The main branch quietly married their daughter off as if nothing had happened. As the 6th prince ruled, the Langya Wangs faded from court, declining. Now seeing the capital branch thriving and disobedient, they wanted to send their second legitimate daughter into the harem. After all, the current empress was young. If she bore a son first, who knew who would hold the throne later? They were both Wang daughters, no threat to the crown prince's position. The court would not object. Their calculations were loud and clear. Father, betrayed by the main branch, smiled to their faces but smashed cups behind their backs, furious and sleepless. His first words in his study were, "Destroy all the spies the main branch left us." For his daughter and his nephew, he had to choose. While father tossed and turned in the capital, I could not sleep at the border. The old marquis was ruthless. Even knowing I was empress, he showed no mercy. On my first day, he threw me into the new recruits' camp. The only privilege was my own tent. He didn't hide that I was a woman. The soldiers didn't insult me with words, but they isolated me completely. They refused to team with me, refused to eat with me, refused to stand near me. Fine, if they wouldn't team with me, I'd be a team of one. If they wouldn't stand near me, I'd take my own space. I'd isolate everyone. The old marquis thought this would test me, but I'd already been through this at the palace school. Those noble kids hadn't known who I was, thinking I was some illegitimate princess. They'd isolated me left and right. After 10 days, I still hadn't left. Many older soldiers softened toward me. Some even came over to talk. "You look younger than my daughter. Why would you want to be a soldier?" I cleaned my spear. "I want to protect my country." He frowned. "Protecting the country is men's work. Little girls should worry about flowers in their hair. The border is too hard for women." He seemed to think of his own children, his smile sad and empty. Not every girl wants to hide under her father's or brother's protection. Women have dreams too. I'll prove women are just as good as men, he huffed, full of arguments, but said nothing. Before leaving, he glanced back. Then, do your best. I nodded and said I would. That night, the camp was raided by enemy soldiers. Screams and clashing steel filled the sky. It was my first time killing someone. Slash, cut. Like chopping melons and vegetables. From shaking all over to steady hands, it only took one night. By dawn, our vanguard camp of 10,000 had lost 3,000 men. They said there was a spy. His portrait was posted everywhere. I looked closely. It was the soldier who'd spoken to me. He told me to do my best, while being a spy. How ironic, my tutor once said. You can know a man's face but not his heart. Always keep some distrust. Now I understood. The old Marquis flew into a rage and came to Yuching to command personally. Old as he was fierce. He planned to strike back. He wouldn't swallow this loss. Missions came non-stop. I got many, later. Because I performed flawlessly every time, the young generals in the army finally respected me. I became a captain. The men no longer looked down on me for being a girl. This girl was stronger, smarter, and led them to victory. People are realistic. Only the strong break rules and prejudice. 3 years after arriving at the border, I became a famous female general. Though my reputation was rough, they said I was clever but ruthless. I scoffed. If our men weren't so honorable, we would have conquered the Western Rhone long ago. The Rhone didn't know my tactics. They'd been defeated repeatedly. Wherever I was, they didn't dare attack. They knew if captured by other soldiers, they'd die quickly. In my hands, they'd beg to die. On my 15th birthday, father sent letter after letter begging me to return for my coming-of-age ceremony. Emperor brother-in-law also wrote often, asking if I was well. One father was enough trouble. Now I had two. I used to reply once in a while, but lately I was too busy planning to crush the Western Rhone. Most of my letters to the emperor were military updates. He always added something extra at the end. Last time, I said I was attacking the Rhone. He wrote, "Good, attack. Have you been eating well? Should I send you maids? I've grown white hairs worrying about you." I clicked my tongue in disgust and tossed the letter aside. Honestly, the Western Rhone were cheap. They always stirred up trouble at the border then ran. I didn't want them as a subject state, something that disobedient should just be killed. The old Marquis's health had worsened. He couldn't do as much. His adopted son was cautious, brave but unwise. I think the old Marquis knew he had no heir, otherwise he wouldn't have worked so hard to train me. These years he let me build my own female army. He let me act arrogantly, turning a blind eye. I never hid my ambition. In war, the capable lead, the incapable stay quiet. I was second in command now. I thought I could go higher. The old Marquis teased. My seat's getting hot. An empress stealing a minister's work. He tossed the military tally to me. I could command the entire southwest border. In the 10th year of Genin, the Western Rhone sued for peace. I refused outright. My reason was simple. The name Western Rhone sounds bad. I don't like it. The old Marquis didn't support destroying them. Drive a dog into a dead alley, and it will bite back. He meant the Rhone and others. I cleaned my spear, uncaring. Then let them come. In the 2nd month of that year, the Western Rhone fell. But I disappeared. After their kingdom collapsed, the second prince hunted me like a madman. Only when he saw me fall off a cliff did he kill himself. I was gravely injured, but alive. A bearded old man saved me when I was half dead. He carried me far, stealing goat's milk and herbs from farmers to keep me alive. He spoke the Rhone language, but was Han. He never came near me when I was awake. I guessed who he was. One day I saw him writing a letter. I couldn't help asking, "You're a spy. Why save me? I never betrayed my country. I was only turning their plot against them. There has been a spy all along, but it was not me. So you're the one who's been secretly sending me information all these years." He smiled. The young general is clever. He escorted me to the border, but refused to return with me. I'm a wanted man now. I won't step on homeland soil. I nodded. Very well. Return when you're no longer a criminal. We met by fate. Do me one favor first. Benefactor. He sneered. The general has no manners at all. I laughed. You know my reputation. They say even a dog passing me gets stripped of its fur. I didn't announce I was alive right away. When the enemy is in the open and I'm hidden, I learn more. With Uncle Beard's help, information was much easier to find. One day, the military governor's mansion held a feast. I was curious who could make the always frugal old marquis spend so much. I snuck in dressed as a dancing girl. The general's mansion was always plain. Even at feasts, I never saw more than 5 dishes. Who had more face than me? The Empress. I stood in the crowd, staring at the noble young man on the main seat. He looked familiar. Before I could figure it out, my turn to dance came. Damn it, dancing required twisting my waist. My waist was harder than stone. Every twist made my bones creak. The frowning young man on the seat seemed to smile. He pointed at me. That veiled maid. Come wait on this palace. Case solved. It was my soft, good son. The crown prince at 10 was nothing like I'd been. I suspected brother-in-law had given him special lessons. How else could he be this tall? I sat shyly beside him and offered wine. He squeezed my hand and whispered, "Auntie, long time no see." I leaned on his shoulder and gritted, growing up bold, already chasing girls at this age. The soft little ball had turned into a noble young master, his brown eyes curved with amusement. How else would I free my auntie? Once everyone left at night, we talked properly. It turned out that in the month I'd been missing, the old marquis had fallen critically ill. Power had been handed to Cheng, who little by little, he was the one hosting today. As the marquis's adopted son, he seemed the natural heir, but this was too smooth. Military authority was decided by the court. The court hadn't spoken, he'd already arranged it. No way there weren't devils pushing him behind the scenes. The man was brazen. His first act as leader was to report to the court that General He Yang was dead, as if he was absolutely certain. The camp was buzzing that General Cheng was stealing General He's merits. With General He dead and the old marquis ill, he got the credit for destroying the Western Rome. The female general herself sat at the table pinching pastries, frowning in thought. He doesn't seem to know your real identity. He thinks you're just a common soldier, so he reported you dead. His imperial father doesn't believe it, but all your hidden guards have lost contact. He was worried, so I came to see. I scoffed. How could he not know? He knows perfectly well. Many of the second prince's men were Han, Cheng, who is a spy, and is not the only traitor. Xie Ling's expression turned serious. How do you know, auntie? I brushed the pastry crumbs off my hands. I intercepted Western Rome letters before. When we conquered them, I found more clues. They're afraid I'll bring the evidence back. Xie Ling thought for a moment. 2 years ago, when I wiped out the deposed crown prince's men, I found he'd been close to the Western Rome. We looked at each other and understood. The deposed crown prince had been secretly executed by the late emperor, surely for an unforgivable crime. The late emperor had been too weak to investigate, passing the throne to the 6th prince and dying. Too much time had passed. It would be hard to reopen the case. But my sister's death was still unclear. My heart wouldn't rest. What secret could have forced her to kill herself? I need to see the old marquis, then go to Zuzhu. Cover for me. As for Cheng, who arrest him soon. The crown prince's pale face tensed, his long lashes lifted. Your birthday is coming. Won't you return to the capital? Grandmother's health is poor. She misses you. Even father is worried. I will be back before start of winter. I waved at him and jumped out the window. Xie Ling hurried to the window. The figure was already leaping over the wall. He could only whisper, "Nian Nian, take care." Someone had drugged the old marquis. He was delirious, muttering, "Yu Hang, run, Yu Hung." I'd heard that name twice now. Jingui said he'd been sacrificed. What could make a family sacrifice such a brilliant young general? Over a decade ago. General Yu Heng, the ever-victorious general, had lost disastrously to the Western Rome, losing 3 cities. He'd killed himself out of shame. He became a disgrace to the Yu clan. His name erased. No one remembered him anymore. The clues were tangled. I gave up thinking for now. I called my hidden guards, ordered them to guard the old marquis, then slipped out of the city under nightfall. Please. The evidence was pointing straight to the Langya Wangs. Did I want to be implicated later? Wang family study, Zuzhu. Wang Yang noticed something was wrong as soon as he entered. A strange scent lingered. His hand rested on the door. Should he close it or run? The Wangs had many hidden guards. Whoever could sneak past them into the study was no ordinary person. I'd close the door if I were you, uncle. What I'm about to say isn't pleasant. He closed the door, thought for a moment, then said, "Why has Her Majesty come in the middle of the night?" "Ah, just to tell you. Killing me isn't that easy," I sighed. "I didn't want to meddle, but you've committed a minor offense, treason, maybe 9 clans wiped out. It affects me." "What? Didn't you dare do it when it was only 3 clans?" Got cold feet. He closed the door and still managed to smile. "Father and eldest brother insisted on tying to the deposed crown prince despite my warnings. You know the rest. The deposed prince colluded with the Western Rome to seize power, as his world crumbled. The scheming Yu family stepped in. They sacrificed Yu Hang, gave up 3 cities, and quieted the Rome for a while. Everyone was desperate to escape. Then father showed up with a fortune, like a fat sheep waiting to be slaughtered. Father regretted it the second he boarded the pirate ship, but he was afraid the deposed prince would purge him if he ascended. He had no choice but to obey. Still, he took a chance. He delayed marrying Huanin. When it all exploded, the late emperor was so angry at the deposed prince he collapsed and died. He poured me a cup of water. When the 6th prince ascended, the court was full of troubles. Our Wangs slipped away. Things seemed to turn, until you insisted on investigating your sister's death. If I didn't, the emperor would. I won't take that blame. Did you like being blackmailed by the Western Rome? He smiled. Death was coming sooner or later. I sent assassins. If you died, the Wangs might live longer. If you lived, it proves the Langya Wangs still have talent. Either way, I win. He pulled a box from a hidden compartment and set it before me. This is the Wang's sincerity. You're young, ambitious, bright. You don't want to be dragged down by us, do you? The emperor feels guilty toward the Wangs because of your sister. But if he learns the truth, how long will that guilt last? My sister knew too. So she used her death to distract the emperor, made him think it was all the Yu family's doing. He nodded. Tell me everything. This alone isn't enough to make you act like this. The current crown prince is not your sister's son. She gave birth to a girl. The crown prince was brought in from elsewhere. I spit out my water. I laughed out loud in anger. To keep it secret, my brother told the crown prince when he was young. He meant to control him, rebel when he came of age, save our clan. This move is desperate. Did you poison her back then? We actually brought an antidote. The plan was to let the head imperial physician win the crown prince's trust. I stood and clapped. Wow, when you sin big. The Western Rome are gone. I found the clues, the emperor will too. You don't have much time. Pick a lucky day and end it. All who know must die before the emperor finds out. I'll save only 1 Wang in Zuzhu. You decide who. He seemed to relax. This disaster had been planted long ago. All he could do was end it cleanly. 1 wrong step, and every step after was wrong. No turning back. I turned around. From now on, we have no ties. Hand over the Wang family tree. The day I returned to the palace, the first snow of winter fell. Xie Sheng was reviewing memorials in the imperial study when the window flew open. He looked up. A young woman in a red riding dress smiled brightly and waved at him. Your Majesty, look, it's snowing. He froze for a long moment, then whispered softly, the child is home. The once round little face had lost some softness. Now she blazed like a blooming peony, bold, bright, stunning. She grabbed a handful of snow, climbed through the window, and ran to press it into his hand. The 35-year-old emperor had long mastered the art of hiding his emotions, but in front of her, he still broke easily. You reckless girl, you finally remembered to come back. Charging into the Western Rome alone with no men, were you trying to die? I flinched before his fury. Our eyes met, and I guiltily looked away. He seemed to realize he'd been too harsh. Have you eaten? No, I pouted. I'd ridden 3 horses to death to get back in time. Liu Yong, have food brought. He tossed the snow into the ink tray and went back to his memorials. I hurried over and clung to his arm. Don't be angry, Your Majesty. When you collapsed in front of me before, I was terrified. I just wanted to protect you. The raging emperor's anger softened a little. He pulled away. Tell me, why didn't you return after your victory? I tugged his sleeve. My Family back home got mixed up in something that carries the death penalty for 9 clans. I had to fix it, before he could flare up again. I pushed him into his chair and hugged his neck from behind. If he threatened to behead me, I could quickly cover his mouth. I hadn't hidden any of this from him. I guessed he'd been waiting for me to speak up. A ruler's heart was hard to read. I was nervous. If you didn't want me to know, I won't press. What do you want me to do next? He closed his memorial and asked softly. This has to be uncovered, but not openly. Once we know everything, we'll use another excuse to eliminate 3 clans. That will be justice enough, Your Majesty. Our capital branch only shares ancestors with them 4 generations back. What they did has nothing to do with us. You must see the truth. I squeezed his shoulders as I spoke. He didn't answer, only asked, does the Crown Prince know? I shook my head. I don't know. Then we'll do it your way. I let out a quiet breath. My head felt safely back on my shoulders. That night back in Qianqing Palace, the maids who'd grown up with me were overjoyed. They chatted with me for a long time. Xie Sheng watched from afar and sighed. Qianqing Palace hasn't been this lively in so long. Liu Yong bowed his head and smiled. Yes, Your Majesty. Her Majesty loves liveliness. The title Her Majesty must have struck him. Xie Sheng decided the girl was grown and should return to her own palace. Fine. Let her sleep here tonight. She could go tomorrow. The next morning, the Crown Prince came to pay his respects. He found the once quiet palace bustling, turning. He saw his aunt directing maids to move things. He stepped forward, and she finally noticed him. Xie Linghe, have you eaten? The little prince had already eaten, but after a pause, he shook his head. The 2 ate pastries while waiting for Xie Sheng. The scene felt just like old times. What about Cheng Hu? He confessed everything. The Yu and Wang clans are both involved. The mention of the Wangs made me laugh awkwardly. What will you do now? The prince asked, sipping his tea. Hey. I have to listen to your father. My position is awkward. What else can I do? If you don't want to stay in the palace, father won't force you. The palace held him, and Linghe. To me, it was half a home. Staying would be fine. But my heart still raced for the world outside. The Empress's coming-of-age ceremony was grand. It was the first time I'd appeared before the ministers since entering the palace. The Emperor held my hand and led me step by step to the Empress's throne. The imperial seal was placed in my palms. From that day, authority over the harem returned to me. Before I could even feel nervous, the Emperor handed me the military tally too. He announced to the court that I was both Empress and Grand Marshal overseeing all armies. The court erupted. Everyone thought the Emperor had lost his mind. An Empress as Marshal, unprecedented since ancient times. At 13, the Empress took the pseudonym He Yang and defended the border. At 15, she destroyed the Western Rhone. In merit, few men in the realm can match her. Why should she not be Grand Marshal? Silence fell. Those who'd mourned the hero General He Yang fell quiet. Later, ministers argued that the Empress's duty was to rule the harem, not lead armies. The military officials snapped. If the border has no commander, you go. The civil officials backed down. The military men actually fought. They didn't dare act up. Their weak protests died quickly, and I, bright-eyed, happily accepted my new post and went home. As soon as father returned, he knelt in the ancestral hall, muttering about how I'd made something of myself, yet feeling he'd let the emperor down. The legal mother and my birth mother didn't care about that. They cheered, calling me a model for all women, and the emperor the most enlightened ruler under heaven. The emperor once explained to me, I had to remain empress until the crown prince came of age. He also said if I ever found a man I liked, I could keep him near me, wait a few years until he died before giving him a title. Otherwise, the ministers would tear me apart. I'd said then, fine, next time I'm out, I'll buy you a green crown, it'll match your skin perfectly. He ground his teeth and told me to get out, calling me ungrateful. Before leaving the palace, I gave the imperial seal back to noble consort Xian. This time I promoted her rank, and she didn't refuse. She was now noble consort Xian, the highest title. She'd aged. But she looked at me with admiration. Your Majesty, don't worry, I'll keep the harem in perfect order, and I'll watch the emperor closely for you too. I felt awkward. The emperor didn't need watching. Her Highness the First Princess has admired you since childhood. She has no ambition. She only wants to be a healer outside the palace. Can you speak to the Emperor for her? The first princess's mother had died young. She'd been with noble consort Xian all these years. And she truly loved the girl. I looked at the timid, pale girl behind her. Though shy, her eyes shone like starlight. You want to be a healer? Yes, Your Majesty, I do. All right, let's go. When I found the Emperor, he was studying portraits. I thought he'd taken a fancy to some noble daughter and leaned over. They were all portraits of young men. My gaze toward him turned strange. He rolled his eyes at me. These are husbands I've picked for you. Take a look. I clicked my tongue. I don't want the stupid ones. I don't want the dark ones. I don't want the soft, pale ones. You choose, Your Majesty. I'm going back to the border. His hand froze over the album. Then he said, How long will you be gone? I don't know, 3 or 5 years. I'll come back sometimes. Your father will miss you. I tilted my head. He wants to come with me, move the whole family. He'll hand in his resignation in a few days. Xie Sheng's lashes trembled. Then he said, I will miss you too. Why won't you come back to see me? I touched my chest. It had felt odd and tingly just now. I didn't know why. All right, I'll write every month. I'll come back for reports on time. I stammered. He sighed. I'm growing old. I don't know how many more times we'll see each other in this life. You heartless little thing. What are you saying? You're only middle-aged, full of spirit. Don't talk such unlucky words. He smiled and said nothing. In the warm spring 3rd month. I set off for the border again. I looked at the tightly closed palace gates. I still didn't see that familiar figure. He'd said he wouldn't see me off. I didn't think he'd be so cruel. Xie Linghe chuckled. If you want to see him, why not go say goodbye? I kicked a stone. I don't want to make him too sad. Wang Lanyun, hurry up. Let's go. I turned. My birth mother and legal mother poked their heads out of the carriage. I mounted my horse and waved goodbye to the Crown Prince. I'm off. Different from last time, the border was hard, but my family would be with me. Genin 15th year. Xie Sheng rarely went to court anymore. His health was failing. A late autumn rain left the drowsy emperor unusually sleepless. When Linghe arrived, he was rubbing his temples. Father, you didn't sleep well again. He froze, then whispered, I dreamed she was injured. Border activity had increased lately. The hidden guards had lost contact. If you care for Auntie so much, why not keep her by your side? Xie Sheng shrugged. I care for her, so I want to give her everything she wants, including freedom. The Crown Prince now governed the state. The court was stable. Every day, he either fed fish by the pond or wrote in the study. Life was peaceful, for once. The girl who'd promised to come back hadn't returned in a full year. The realm had been unstable lately, rebellions here, disasters there. She was busy everywhere. I heard she'd built many schools in the past 2 years, open to boys and girls alike. Officially, women could serve as officials in this dynasty, but few did. Noble families wouldn't let their daughters show their faces. Common girls had no money to study. The law was empty. But she was different. She made young children attend free. Some learned skills, others learned to read and write. If they weren't good at books, a trade could feed them. She didn't crush the Western wrong everywhere. She spread Confucianism among them. Economically, she opened trade. The two peoples blended. And there was little unrest. She was busy doing real things for the people. She said, You be good rulers, and I'll be a good minister. The child was clever and kind. Thinking this, he felt proud. He still had some skill at raising people. If his health allowed, he would have gone to the border to see the cities she'd built. The Xie family had never been strong. His father had been weak, so was he. He hoped Linghe would fare better. When Linghe had pitifully told him he wasn't his real son, his first thought had been, what does it matter? As long as you're a good emperor. He'd even felt a little relieved back then. If the boy wasn't his own blood, maybe he'd live longer, later. When the imperial father-in-law resigned, he told him the truth. The late empress had faked her pregnancy to guard against the Langya Wangs. Linghe was really concubine Chen's son. The empress had never been pregnant at all. Good news. The boy was his own. Bad news. The weak Xie genes had been passed down after all. He decided he really ought to remind Linghe to rest more. Otherwise, his health would fail young too. His thoughts drifted. and he grew sleepy. He leaned against the rail and closed his eyes. In his dream, he was young again, chasing the deposed crown prince's trail to the Yu residence. To calm the deposed prince's suspicions, he'd claimed he loved the Yu daughter. Still, the prince hadn't trusted him and sent assassins. He'd been wounded and collapsed. A voice whispered in his ear, "Wake up, Nian Nian will take you home." The funeral bell for the late emperor rang through the capital that day. Xie Sheng's era ended abruptly. On an ordinary autumn day, he never got to see his little one again. But he saw a nation reborn, that was brought by Nian Nian.